This segment is brought to you in part by the Canadian Historical Arms Society, owners of the Genesee Range, the premier recreational sport and training facility in Western Canada. See us online at historical-arms.com.
The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Quiet Professional. Today, we are going to be talking to a repeat guest, another city councillor kind of in the last 3 weeks. It'd be the second one I've had on from the city of Edmonton. So happy to get him in here. I got Michael Janz on the show. So welcome to you.
Hey, Nathan. Great to be back.
You know what? We've had a bunch of discussions since the last time you've been on. I was actually looking it up. It was November 2024. I actually thought it was last year, but kind of stretching almost into a second year here. But I'm glad we got you on the show, and lots has developed since then. So I think it'll be a fruitful discussion.
Yeah, it's been we had a municipal election in Edmonton. We're in another financial crisis or something. Gas is what, $4? Like it's, things are going wild. It's always an interesting time.
So we're into 2026 now. And I guess we'll even just talk about a bit of the overlap of municipal politics with law enforcement. But you went on a ride along recently. There's some stuff we're going to talk about where you're looking at some solutions for policing or law enforcement to help them out, like around court attendance, which I think is a really good thing. So, we'll kind of dive into, maybe we'll start with a ride along that you did recently, because I thought this experience was interesting and we could take a bit from it.
Well, in the last municipal election, you spend kind of the 6 months before the election day door knocking. And one of the big themes that I heard about throughout Edmonton was safety. And when council came together with the mayor and established our 4 priorities for the term, safety is absolutely one of them. But I want to make clear we're taking a very multifaceted definition of safety, where we're concerned about safety, not just from the potential burglar, but also looking at safety on our streets with motor vehicles, safety from wildfires, safety from other concerns in our community. And it was something we heard about quite a bit at the doors, just these broader concerns about safety and insecurity right now in Edmonton and in Alberta. So when I got elected, I reached out to the new police chief and his team and said, I really want to do a ride along with the traffic ops department. And you'll recall actually on the pod last time I mentioned when a question I had for you was, so what do you got to do to piss off the chief to end up in traffic? And you said, actually, no, it's a coveted position. Some people really want it. It fits their personality and fits their there's a clarity that comes with it. And so I asked the chief, I said, hey, I want to go out with traffic ops. It's not the sexiest ride along, but it is it's the area that is the number one source of complaint in my inbox. I represent the core of Edmonton, so whether it's the speeding vehicles, it's the noisy vehicles, it's the bang 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 down White Avenue, or it's just the dangerous fatalities that we've seen. Over 32 people lost their lives to road violence in Edmonton last year that were killed in either in a crosswalk as a pedestrian, or were killed in a car crash or others. So this is a very, very serious area of concern for the city and my colleagues. So I asked if I could do a traffic ops ride along. They said sure. They sent me out, and it was during that 1 week in just between Christmas and New Year's when it was the snowpocalypse. It was like 3 feet of snow everywhere. So, I mean, to be clear, everybody was kind of driving, with their hands on the 9 and 3 because you had to. But I still had a lot of time to talk with a member just about their experience and what it's like on the streets doing the traffic beat.
One of the things I actually was interested in getting into discussion with you about was, like you said there, traffic violence, vehicle violence,
road violence.
Yeah, road violence.
I mean in the very.
I don't know if I would necessarily classify it as that or the terminology. But one thing I was thinking on this was, some of the vehicles that are out there, they might be bigger, might have different sight lines, but most of the incidents I've been to and throughout my career, I found it's usually from the law enforcement side. If we're looking at like, hey, someone getting a ticket out of this or charges, it usually has been on the pedestrian. So the vehicles themselves, and I guess for me, I don't really look at the vehicle itself so much as it's the people, right? The person operating it. So either that person's operating whatever their vehicle is improperly, or the pedestrian is crossing against a light, runs out into traffic, whatever they might be doing. But we had one just a couple weeks ago, and we thought for sure the driver of the vehicle was going to be the problem with the whole situation. It ended up being the pedestrian who just went full speed, running out into traffic. Actually, when the hand signal was counting down, which means you're not supposed to enter the intersection. Anyone that is there is supposed to clear out. But they went running through with that, and this vehicle's making a left, clobbered the person, like hit him bad. And it's just like, well, that's not the vehicle's fault. It's the person operating, but it's also the pedestrian. And then kind of, law enforcement is separate from insurance, in case people don't know that. So they might have a different finding than us, but from a law enforcement perspective, it was the pedestrian.
I mean, that's absolutely horrible. And I'm very sorry to the first responders who had to catch that call. I think one thing we're seeing, though, with vehicles is that they're bigger and bigger and bigger. And in, say, the 1970s, it might have been like a low Honda that hit that person. They might have bounced off the hood, and survival rate would have been much, much higher. Now what we're seeing, though, is because the vehicle's just to the hood, it could be up to your shoulder. When you get hit, you're getting pulled under, sucked under, and more likely to die. We're also seeing that with the bars on some of the vehicles as well too. You're blocking visibility. There's reduced visibility. Then there's another dimension too, where as you're cornering, you might be looking at your dash. You've got this giant iPad of a dashboard. The vehicles are not only bigger and more deadly, but they're also more distracting. That was something that came up in the ride along quite a bit. Was we were in a F-150, I think.
Okay,
so
yeah.
The member had the ability to look down on look physically down on other cars who may be texting. And there was a couple of calls where he showed me, he's like, look, you can see, it was nighttime. You can see the phone screen. Yep. You could see the green, you could see like it was an iPhone, and you could see blip, blip, blip. So there was no ambiguity of what that's doing. And another takeaway too, the member showed me, is you pop off the body cam, you grab a quick video of that. So now it's like indisputable. I've got video of you doing that thing I said you were doing, because the number of people who say, oh, I wasn't texting, I was just holding it. I wasn't texting, I was just, it fell. Like so I actually saw a positive body cam application when it comes to traffic, and that there's a ability to really remove some of the he says, she says out of it.
Or even a positive from like having a slightly like the elevated platform for the police purpose. I just think of like, I've driven in, I'm going to pick on Chrysler products because I think they're terrible. But, if you drive a Chrysler 300, and it's got like low profile windows, I mean, it's got a million blind spots. Some of their other products, they went with like just kind of an overall design. It was very sleek looking, low profile. But yeah, it just gives you a ton of areas that you just can't see unless you got cameras or you got all these warning and detection systems. But then you could have a big truck that has big windows. You're totally right when you say, there is a height requirement, like your lights have to be at a certain height so that you're not blinding other people and that you can see. I did read a study a long time ago where they talked about like where the bumpers are now getting higher. Like if you put a lift kit on your truck, well, now it's above the impact beams on the sides of a car. So your bumper's going straight through someone's...
Even a standard SUV now.
Yeah.
Even a standard SUV. They're all like, we're in this arms race of bigger and bigger vehicles where they're inflicting heavier and heavier casualties, and they're more deadly. So, I mean, when we talk about road safety, I think about it, there's the enforcement piece, like catching the people who are speeding, who are dangerous drivers. There's also the piece around road engineering. How are we as a city building a city that has bump outs for pedestrians when they're crossing the street, that has clear sight lines, that make sure that there's adequate space for people to cross, whether you're a granny with a walker, a little kid in a stroller. We want to make sure that everyone can arrive alive. None of us want to, even if you're running across the street and absolutely your behavior is illegal, we don't want you to die. We want to make sure that we can maximize your chances of survival. Yeah. And we know that speed is absolutely a factor. And if we can lower that, that's a huge piece here too. But It was a very interesting ride along. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say on that though, I think a lot of it comes down to we're always talking about the vehicle, but we're not talking about the person driving the vehicle doing better. And where's all the education for the pedestrians? Because my my impression when I drive around day to day is pedestrians think that they can just do whatever they want. They literally walk out into traffic. Just because I'm at a street corner, all of a sudden I have the right of way. Everybody has to stop for me. It's like, no, they don't. But then you get, someone in lane, there could be 4 lanes and lane 2, someone stops. But lane 1 and 3 and 4 don't realize why they're stopping because there's no crosswalk. Then the person starts to walk.
And I would argue the way we build our society should put the pedestrian in the center. The pedestrian should be, because all of us at some point in our trip, we are the pedestrian. Even if you're driving to the mall, you get out of your car at some point and you're walking into the mall. So I think if we center the pedestrian around, at some point we're all walking and we're the vulnerable user, right? It's like the same principle is kind of, let little kids be safe first. They're the vulnerable ones. They've got the small little ones. When you're in the car, you're in a giant, heated, warm exoskeleton. If a pedestrian takes 10 more seconds crossing the street, that's fine. You're warm. You're in your car. You're sitting comfortably. You might even have heated seats, right? So I think about how can we work back from there? And if a pedestrian breaks the law, nobody dies. But if a car breaks the law, there's a huge opportunity there. The driver could kill somebody. We need to maximize this. And remember, like there were 8 people who were killed in marked crosswalks. They were crossing in marked crosswalks, which is their right? And then the rest of the traffic fatalities and the major injuries were driver on driver, car on car. And so that's a major thing. And also motorbikes. We've had, I think, 8 motorcyclists killed last year. And like one of them was going 200.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable. There's a number of these cases where road violence is a major issue in our community. And it even like for all of us, we're paying higher insurance bills in Alberta. We're all seeing more expensive insurance costs. We're seeing just much greater costs to our society. Every time the fire trucks have to come out, that's a cost to the taxpayer. Every time you guys are involved, there's costs to the taxpayer. So the member drilled into me on the ride along. He said, Janz, driving is a privilege, not a right. And I don't want to say that. I asked the member, like, well, what do you think about like annual license exams or what do you think of like, and he said there should be a lot more. He didn't say annual, but he said there should be a lot more regular check-ins with people in terms of accountability, especially like just some of the really dumb behavior. The last call we caught.
It should be a lot harder to get a license. I'll say that much. It should be way harder.
And even like regular certifications or medical issues or other things like that, or like just other pieces. The last call we caught was a guy just did a U-turn in an intersection. So right in front of him. So he puts the lights on, pulls him over. Turns out the guy had no insurance. The registration was an issue. There was all these other issues. And it was like, I don't want to say too much, but it was like, there was like 7 tickets on that one instance.
Yeah.
But overall, I'd say like I learned a ton. I learned about like how some of it is so challenging around say catching some of the infractions, about like, it's not Hollywood. You're not going on high speed chases over different things. I asked about the motorbikes. He said the number of times a bike flips off the cops and just guns it away. And I mean, if you have air support, you can chase them, but the helicopter can chase them, but like, you may not, they may be on a different call.
They're down for all kinds of things, weather all the time, maintenance, or they're just busy in another part of the city. So,
yeah, but generally like my takeaway is like with the loss of photo radar and with the loss of automated enforcement in Alberta, you're seeing just over the last few years some like there's a sense of like lawlessness. There's a sense of it's not just the speeding. It's also like I can do that U-turn in the intersection. I can do those other behaviors, drive up on the sidewalk, etc. There's a site in Edmonton. I don't want to say it online, but it's a Twitter site where people share videos, etc.
Oh, okay.
And I get tagged all the time and like, look at this car drove into a business, this car drove into an apartment, this car is flipped over again, and all of this. You can guess which site I'm talking about. It's like a wave pool.
Yeah. And you know what? On that though, it's like it always comes down to we need some different equipment, or it's an issue with the vehicle. But again, it's like the people are the problem.
Exactly. And that comes back to licensing, accountability, insurance, all of those pieces. Yeah.
On both sides, right? Like, and I'm not saying that all vehicle drivers are good drivers. Definitely not. And as I'm saying, I think it should be a lot more difficult to even get a driver's license just from some of the things I've seen day to day. That kind of leads us into a few other topics we were going to mention. Out of that ride along, or maybe you mentioned it the last time you were on, but talking about some of the court reforms, you were talking about
Oh yeah. So
how long members spend in court. And this will get onto the
yeah,
notification.
that blew me away. So if you're on a shift, you could be spending a third of your. So let's say you're on a 12-hour shift, you could be spending a third of your time in court either. So first of all, Edmonton's a big city. If you're out in the West End in Lewis Estates and you got to drive in downtown to get to court by midday, that's that could be 45 minutes, right? So now you're off the road now you're heading in. You're not doing traffic out at Lewis Estates and those schools. So you're coming in, you get to the court, then you got to wait at the court. You might be waiting there to get called on by the system or not. Somebody may show or not, and you may also what I was told is some judges will wait up to an hour to see if somebody shows up or not, to give them the full day in court, so to speak, before they make a ruling and find them guilty in absentia, right? So by the time the member gets back on the street again, 4 hours, a third of their shift could be burned in this whole exercise. That also means you have the traffic cops mostly hanging around the courthouse area because that's where their destination is, right? So that means we're lacking in the southwest, the northeast, the way west, the way south, right? So when we think about, we have traffic teams, we have coverage for the city, but what are they doing? And so I've heard the courts are now already. Apparently, they have this thing where you can video into the court, but again, you have to be waiting. The judge isn't going to wait for you to finish up the call you're on, or finish up the ticket you're on. Sorry, Justice. Sorry, you're on. Your worship. I'm just you're not going to do that, right? So again, it's a massive time. And when you think about policing as time is money, and for me as a city councillor, think about our budgets and all of that. That's an enormous amount of our taxpayer resource tied up in the justice system. So anything we can do to expedite that, to make things happen faster. So one solution I was looking at in the United States, they did some studies, and this is less about traffic court and more about just the court system in general. But when they implemented a system of text reminders and email reminders. So it's like, your court date is coming up. You need to show up. You need to attend. That led to a much higher attendance rate of people. It led to less people being missing a court date and now, have a warrant out for them. It meant that police officers, when they come upon someone who missed a court date, it was something like 37% of the missed court dates were due to just
forgot.
Yeah.
I think that was half of them, or 60% or something like that.
Yeah, and you could say, well, write it down, get your poop in a scoop, but it's not often that easy. Like, you may be in the court and you may not have your cell phone, you may not able to write it down. You might be, many of the folks who might be in the justice system already have a ton of other barriers getting even back into Edmonton or whatever it is. So in general, if we can take a customer service 21st century lens to our justice system, where it's like, you get court reminders, you get email reminders, we can not only have a higher attendance rate at the courts, we can save police time in terms of when they need to be there or not. We can also be more accurate in when we're getting court dates booked. I've heard from a lot of people in the family system as well, and others, courts are booking a long way out. It can take a long time to get your day, and then that has dysfunction that's trickles all the way down society. There's a house that's on the market that can't be sold yet because it hasn't gone through divorce proceedings, and on and on and on. It affects all of us.
You know what? I just got court for, I think, about a year and a half out, and that's frequent. Like, we'll get some of our criminal stuff, they'll book you like a year and a half out. What's more insane is that day's booked off for you, or sometimes it's a week, like you got a longer trial, and then about a week before, they'll send you a cancellation or be like, oh, something else happened, we're bumping the whole trial. So you just book that whole week off, can't go vacation, can't do anything else, can't take courses, nothing at work, wait a year and a half, and then it comes around, and then they just decide to move it. But if you don't show, you're the one who gets in huge trouble.
Oh, for sure, right? Yeah. And so just when we think about the functioning, if we work out, how much does it cost the system to have somebody in the remand center for a week? How much does it cost the system to have a police officer, booked off like somebody else has to cover your shift, or maybe there's overtime or something? Like, all of this has enormous financial costs. What can we do to either hire more judges, to create some expedited processes, to do more things digital. Even the evidentiary standards, I think, need to be updated. I was told an anecdote about if you have a video and you hand it in, you may have to hand in the USB key that the video is on, because there's all these different pieces that just contribute. And it's not just for the police system, it's also for city municipal bylaw officers and other folks too. So I think, like, if we're talking about building a safer society and investing in justice, investing in policing, investing in all of this, it doesn't stop with the handcuffs. It's all these other pieces that need to be fully functional and running well to make all of our systems more efficient.
Yeah, totally. And that research, it was on like one of the branches of the Pew Research Group. But what I liked about it really was that they took solutions from totally different areas, and they reference like doctors' offices and some others, and they go, well, how did they make sure that people show up, right? And it's just a simple call, text, email reminder 2 days before. And I wonder, it didn't quote in there like what sort of success they had found with those different groups, but obviously it must be working because a lot of them use it now. Like, I can't think of a service, doctors or whatever it might be, that I would go to that doesn't use that now. So, like, looking elsewhere for solutions. And I think you had mentioned that, like, you had talked to Justice Minister or his office.
Yeah, I reached out to the Justice Minister in Alberta about this and said, "Hey, I found this research. It's something I want to kind of be pushing here." And I had a call with his chief of staff yesterday, and the minister's absolutely. I was pleased to hear the minister's absolutely looking at these sorts of reforms, ways to make our justice system more efficient and 21st century, and bringing it up to speed here, because it does feel like we're running a 1700s justice system, and not just the.
We just got away from faxes like 5 years ago or something. It was still in the code.
Did I mention on the last pod, my wife got identity thefted, or she got frauded, and so what happened? They sent over a sworn member in a car with a sidearm, like a full member, over to our house to get her to sign some paperwork. Like, in what, like, it's 2025, 2026. Like, we can apply for a mortgage for $1 million house on my computer and sign it on my phone. How can we not sign, yes, I had my credit card stolen, and why does it require a member to have to be pulled off the street to come and do this? Like, it's stuff like that just sort of, the more you interact with the justice system, the more you're like, oh boy.
Yeah. What world
like,
are we in?
People fly to other countries to get knee surgery or whatever. It's like, okay, well, maybe we're going to get to that. We need a fast track system for our court here.
I wanted to, speaking of reforms and like just kind of improving some of the systems, one thing I wanted to chat with you about, because we did it offline, this was a few months ago, but some of the stuff I see online from the Las Vegas police, and people can go check out their accounts, but they use drones a lot. And I just kind of was thinking, like, talking about implementing new technology, and you want to save on gas and collisions and people having to come to you, like, sending drones out, the way they've been using them. And now I'll say, like, obviously there has to be a huge discussion around privacy, but that discussion will be had. But it's just, there are some technologies that can greatly increase, I'll say, officer safety, public safety, while saving money. But I just thought this was like one of the best technologies that is being utilized by mostly law enforcement in the US right now.
And there are drones in Edmonton that the service has. There are drones that the fire department have in Edmonton as well too, that they're using for fire protection through our river valley. For outside of Edmonton listeners, we have such a massive river valley that's such a fire risk. So they are being used. It's something I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about. I get a lot of complaints about the helicopter, not just in terms of the noise and the disruption to the communities, but the cost. It's very expensive. We're talking millions of dollars to have the helicopter and the 2 helicopters and the plane. And if we're able, like, the drone technology has moved so quickly and so efficiently that it really is a tool that we should be looking carefully at. But I mean, like any tool, whether we're talking about your sidearm, your body cam, or your drone, we need to make sure that it's the who will guard the guards, what policies, procedures, all of that do we have in place to make sure that they're operating properly, that data and protection and privacy and all of that is being managed properly, and everything else. So I think it's a conversation worth having, though, because just the cost, the environmental benefits, all of this are very significant, very, very significant. And maybe there's some really, really good opportunities to think about how this could be done. I'm thinking about like the responsiveness in terms of looking for a missing person, or dealing with that motorcycle who just flipped the bird and took off, or dealing with some other situations where their members may be going into danger, and having a drone there. I think about a lot of our rural counterparts as well too, where this may be able to get you closer to something. So I don't know. Are we going to see a future where every member has both their sidearm and also a drone in the trunk? I don't know. Are we going to see a future where there's a couple just you maybe have a dozen drones up at any time, and then they can be called in?
Is this something that City Council here you think would be open to?
It's not our call. It's this is one of those things where it would be the Police Act provincially. It would be up to the province of Alberta and the other pieces. There's also, there's national standards about the air as well too, like, because you obviously don't want collisions with planes or anything else there. So it wouldn't be a city council decision, yes or no. The police service picks the equipment they want, they bring it forward for funding, and all council really has the ability to do is sign the check. Like, I don't tell you need to buy a Chrysler, not a Dodge.
Yeah.
So
you put me in jail before I buy one of those.
yeah. So yeah, so really it's I think this is something that,
but I guess what I'm asking is, like, council could still support it or not, or voice concerns with it or not. But I'm just thinking, like, would that be something that you think they would say they would support for all these different reasons? Like, would they be kind of on board?
I can't speak for all my colleagues because I think this is a very new conversation. I think there's, like, everybody knows we have a helicopter. The helicopter's up there in the sky. It's could be watching you right now walking to work or whatever. But you trust their you have oversight over there. The same conversation, I think, with drones. How would they be working? What would they be doing? I think as with any technology, it's worth having a conversation. How can this balance the privacy concerns of citizens, as well as ensuring that safety and security are provided from everyone? It's a careful balance. We're having that conversation a bit right now with body cams. There's everybody kind of understands body cams are coming, but now there's all this AI stuff, facial recognition stuff. Like, even if you trust the police, do you trust these companies? Do you trust the policies and procedures? We have body cams that may be deployed on members that are going into schools where there's minors. How are those going to be mitigated? Like, it's all, what's that saying? It's not who has the camera, it's who holds the footage. Mm-hmm. So it's that concern. So, these are all growing pains in a democracy that's going through technology that's outpacing the gods have given us the gift of fire. We're trying to figure out how to use it properly.
Yeah, kind of how to harness all this stuff. And on the drones, like, if people, and I use Las Vegas because I think they're probably the leaders in this, but there are a lot of police services using them. But one thing that they're doing is they'll have little docking stations that are kind of throughout their city. So, like, if you took Edmonton, for example, the police service, we break it into kind of 6 zones. And if you just had, like, a docking station on each police building, and you had like 2 or 3 drones, right? And they're just sitting there charging, ready to go.
Yep.
And a certain type of call comes in, like a person on a bridge. We get that all the time, high level, low level. Like, we could just send a drone out instead of waiting for a car to jump on the call. So that takes X amount of time. And then they got to drive there through all the traffic. And then they got to find the person. But if I could just send a drone and, it doesn't have to follow the streets. It just zooms right there. It's there in like a minute. And then it can go above the bridge, below the bridge, wherever it needs to. Like, it's just the speed with which...
Same with firefighters, that getting a drone to the call first where they can see the state of the fire, so the members, by the time they're arriving, know exactly what they're getting into. Oh, the roof has come down. No, it hasn't. Here's this. Oh, there's an adjacent property we got to watch for. Oh, we can park here. Oh, this street is blocked. There's so many applications that are incredible. It's absolutely... you're going from the video game playing in 2D to now you're playing... playing...
Just so people are aware too, like, we have the drones, but they're using like very limited capabilities. Like, you have to get the drone operator to the scene. We don't just fly it out from the police station and it goes to the scene. So they have to get there. And then we'll use it for everything from photographing collision scenes. So they'll fly it way up. It's got a camera attached, take kind of the overall shot of things, to checking bridges. Or we will use it in medical rescue for clearing buildings. So if we get like a weapons complaint, we might have to go in and see which rooms are clear ahead of time. And there's a whole bunch of thresholds of like how that's being used, right? Like when we talk about charter rights and stuff, but it's like we use it in these very specific cases, whereas down in south, they're kind of using it a little bit more to replace the member. So it's those eyes and ears first.
Yeah, and I mean these are the conversations we're getting into, almost science fiction here. And like, at what point, if the drone has an R-wing on it, and, knock somebody back or whatever, So we're getting into a whole nother domain there. But even you mentioned the charging stations, but some of the drone technology now, especially some of the military ones, they can be up in the air for over a month.
Mm-hmm.
They have a little, a battery and a fuel tank. They can just be up in the air for 30 days. Without needing a charge or refuel. So providing 24/7 coverage is an opportunity there. But I mean, we don't, like, you go to London or other cities, there's cameras on every single street. And China, there's cameras everywhere, obviously different country, but even in the United Kingdom and other places, there is the trade-off conversation. It said, we're okay with reduced privacy in public spaces for this increased provisions. If you're on transit, you're on camera everywhere you go in transit. If you're in the rec center, you're on camera everywhere but the change rooms, right?
Yeah.
So there's certain places in our society where we have had a democratic conversation and said, these are trade-offs we're willing to make. So I personally, like, I would certainly like to see more and learn more about the applications of the drones. I think the cost benefit agreement compared to the helicopters and the planes, I think you might be seeing some services, some police organizations walking back from having because it's not just the helicopters and the planes, it's the maintenance, it's the fuel, you got to have somewhere to store them. There's all the other security risks. There's everything else. There's massive costs. And if you're a small rural detachment out in Alberta somewhere, this gives you a different tool. So
yeah.
Let's chat.
And it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's like looking at different places for different solutions, right? It doesn't always have to come from law enforcement, but there's technology that people are developing for other purposes. And then it's like, hey, how could we kind of tweak that? Or maybe we could use it for our own purpose. So kind of brings us to a topic I really want to get into with you. It's the security and politics. And you were kind of mentioning this before we fired up. I kind of want to ask on this because I had Councillor Elliott on recently, and I was asking him some questions around this. It was more around like the foreign interference and influence campaigns that come in at the municipal level. I think a lot of people really just view it as like it's a bigger world issue. Yeah. So it'd be like, well, only the feds might be exposed to this, but it's at every single level. But I kind of want to get your take on this, and then we can get into some other topics around this if you had. But I'm just wondering, like, you served a couple terms, and Elliott's brand new. Do you remember ever getting like orientation training around hey, be careful who you're shaking hands with, who's talking to you, who keeps coming back, like just the general awareness even?
No, not really. I mean, I think it's something I just sort of acquired through personal life experience, watching movies, everything else.
Listening to this podcast.
Oh, yeah, that could happen. Yeah. Good shout out. Yeah. Or you think about. I think it's interesting. Like, I have seen less of the foreign interference per se, and I've seen a lot more of the corporate interference, like the lobbying, the companies that come up. I mean, when we think about right now, from national security risk to Canada, what's our greatest threat? And I think with the United States threatening Canada, threatening our economy, threatening everything else, I think it's worth having a high degree of suspicion right now of American interests. There's the separatists in Alberta have been meeting in the padded rooms in Washington with the American government. There's a lot of concerns here to our national sovereignty. We know that China has designs on certain aspects of Canada. We know other countries have designs. Russia has designs on the north. We know this is a tale as old as time. And I'd be foolish to think if Canada didn't also have our agents out in other countries with an agenda as well too. I think it's just stepping back and realizing everyone has an agenda, even what is Canada, but a collection also of corporate interests as well too, whether it's our mining interests, our oil and gas interests, our real estate interests, our financial interests, and just being aware of all of this as you go, and just being cognizant of what's ethical and what's not ethical, and ultimately who are the people you serve.
Yeah. You know what? Well, even on that, so mentioning the American side of things, I think with that, it's just more obvious, right? It's more in your face. They're not hiding any of it, and they just kind of have made some intentions very clear. Whereas when you talk about the foreign interference from like Iran, China, this is way more below the surface. It's kind of the iceberg. America be like the tip of the iceberg. The rest of it is that unseen part. That I will say is partially on like law enforcement, the intelligence services, not educating on that and keeping a lot of stuff really secret. It is largely on media for not putting those narratives out there in a proper way. Again, my big thing comes down to educating the public. I think this is something that's missing for politicians. I mean, I've had these discussions with several of you counselors, people at the provincial level, that it's like, do you really know who you're in the room with? Do you really know who you took all those pictures with or shook hands with? Like, and it's not that. And I said this, I think, with Elliot. It's like you go into a room and you're doing things in good faith, and you are there to talk with people. That's your job. So you don't have to have like a full background done on every single person in the room, but the awareness piece, and to then go, well, okay, this person works for this organization. I've actually heard they're kind of connected to something, so I might not want to necessarily engage with them or talk about money or whatever it might be. So that kind of leads to one of the other questions I was going to ask. I'm sorry if you did you want to say something?
Well, it's interesting when I think about security and safety. I mean, we had a shooting at City Hall a couple of years ago, right? And the person who did it had access to weapons, and they were in from it appears to be some really terrible mental health situations. And I would not like, I'm not worried about getting abducted, kidnapped, and converted by some foreign intelligence agency. I'm more worried about the person who's speaking to demons and shows up and wants to harm me or my colleagues. That's the stuff that's more scary.
Well, I guess you can kind of separate those. One's like more of an immediate, like your physical safety, whereas the other one is like it's slow, and it's like the slow drip over time. Right.
Well, and who's the best in the business about this? And I would say it's back when I was I think I told you back when I was I was president of the student union at the U of A, and me and all the other student presidents. It's a buy low, sell high strategy. You buy penny stocks, right?
Yeah.
Me and all the other presidents of the student unions, we got flown to Israel for a 10-day trip there, and we got to, it was paid for by the Israeli government. We got to see their side of the story. We got to see their interest, and absolutely, the whole trip was a very carefully curated mission, so that many of the people with who I was with, when they now are working on Parliament Hill, they're working as ministerial aides, they're briefing a minister. All of us have it how now, are provided a even just that pause to think, well, it's there's this perspective, etc. And there's that trip. I mean, there's other trips. The Chinese community, the business community here take a number of trips to China for politicians, and they don't just take the prime minister. They take people. It's like a draft pick, right? You look around and you're like, because what if you take 100, and if one of them ends up somewhere, then great. The other 99, so be it. But this is this other countries have these sorts of exercises. Even in our public school system, there's partnerships with the Spanish government who send over materials, learning about the history of Spain, etc. And it's everywhere. And I think just having like you say, like having eyes open to all of this, and thinking about how we just at the end of the day, how we conduct ourselves, and which agendas people have to which projects.
So that kind of was going to lead into the second question I was going to ask on this is, how do you pick and choose which campaigns you may or may not support? Like, we see a lot of protests here in Edmonton, but even just on a global scale, what how do you pick and choose essentially between them? Because
And it's so messy, Nathan. It's so messy. I mean,
that's why I would just stay out of it. I'd be like,
even just like, well,
I'm
yeah,
fixing this
yeah,
road.
and it's
I'm not involved in any of that stuff.
like it comes down. I mean, it's more of a like, some people are motivated by religion. Some people are motivated by like maybe a political uh belief or value or ideology. But I mean, for me, it's like I don't want to live in a world with war. I don't want to live in a world where children are getting harmed. I don't want to live in a world where there's those pieces. And anytime we're on the side of the peacemakers, anytime we're, like I hold that sort of like Canada as the peacemaker trying to, like I mentioned, like when I on the last pod, like I joined the Army Reserves back in like 99. And when I was there, like when I joined, it was like, we're the ones who went into Cyprus. We're the ones who went into Bosnia. We're the ones who went into like Rwanda to stop, like be the referee, right? And I think holding that kind of ideal, it may be a bit youthful or ignorant or foolish given the way the world is. But I mean, I think for me that's sort of my concern here. And I think the mayor, the previous mayor put it well, is like there was a anytime things are happening around the world, they affect people here in Edmonton at home. And my kid's daycare teacher is Iranian.
Mm-hmm.
She's scared for her friends and family. She doesn't want her friends. She may or may not hate the regime, but she may or may not also not want the apartment building bombed by the United States, right? Like, so it's just all of this. It's just so complicated. There's so much even in. You might have been on there was a huge fight between different sections, factions from, I think it was India or another, that broke out at a cricket match in North Edmonton. Or
there was the Eritrean event, which was it was on the soccer field.
See what I mean? There's all of these, like Edmonton is a global community, and with that comes all of these challenges. And I think for me, it's how can we find ways to get people together, get people talking, get people still committed to justice, committed to peace, committed to trying to make sure that we're not escalating conflicts. And anytime we can be on the side of the peacemakers, that's sort of my goal there. But I think you absolutely want to be careful who you're talking to, who you're engaged with, all of this. I mean, even like there's Falun Gong protests at the farmers market every Saturday. There's people who have alleged that the Falun Gong are tied to the CIA. There's people who allege that there's this other newspaper that's circulated freely. I forget what it's called. But again, apparently that one's tied to the CIA, and this one, and then there's stuff on social media that might be coming from Russia, and then there's stuff here. Like it all can be really, really messy. And so luckily my job as a city councillor is just talk to your neighbors and figure out how we're going to fill the potholes and keep the train running on time,
it's talking with some people in the intelligence world, and they kind of put it like this. They go, World War II was very clear, like good and evil. And we're trying to stop evil. But nowadays, you have full-on misinfo, disinfo campaigns. There's all kinds of messiness in the middle. Canada, right? We are a strategic partner now with China, but China is one of the biggest backers of Russia, who we are, as Canadians, supporting Ukraine. So what are we doing on these two sides? Now we're going to sell energy to China. Well, do you think that might go to Russia? But then we say we support Ukraine. It's just so complicated, and all the geopolitics of it and all the behind the scenes stuff, I think just really gets lost in a lot of the conversations. Just speaking about the Eritrean event, I think a lot of what is missing when you look at big events like that take place is kind of the identity and culture. And when we talk about like what is a Canadian, right now, I could tell you, I don't think anybody could give you an answer. What is a Canadian? I think it's lost. And that goes into like the politics of it, and Trudeau government, some of the stuff they were saying. But I think that's a big component that's missing. Like why do we all live here? What do we believe in? And why did anybody from outside of here come here? Right. And that's whether you're from Eritrea or you're Ukraine or wherever it might be. Like you're coming here because you believe in certain ideals, certain values, you hold certain morals. We have to find a way to kind of get along and identify together. And then all that other stuff we can address in certain ways. But right now it's like, I have my little faction, I live in my little neighborhood, and I don't like those people from some thing, years ago when I lived in this other country. It's like, but you're here now and you're Canadian. So we have to identify as that first, and then all the other things might come second. I think it'd be an interesting conversation. It's definitely a bigger conversation.
It's tough for sure. And I mean, Edmonton in particular for the last 50 years has welcomed wave after wave of refugees from different countries, newcomers from different countries. I mean, they're not a monolith. Even when you look at the Ukrainian community in Edmonton, there's multiple factions throughout history that have, had different values, different religions, different pieces here. So just figuring out how we build a city together where, we can all sit on the bus and we can all go to the library and we can all go to the rec center and we can all be peaceful here. I think that's what we really want to watch for, and that's why the social media stuff, especially where we need, and this is something where I think the federal government could step in and say this kind of shit when this kind of crap gets around the pod.
Oh yeah, I'm not deleting that.
Okay.
We're keeping that in.
yeah, this kind of shit is allowed on the airwaves. Like you can put this on the radio. You would lose your broadcasting license, but yet you can broadcast it over social media. That's nuts, and I think that's especially screwing up young people today too. So, I mean, if we look at concentric rings of harm, what we want to stop here, it's always so complicated. I mean, I think we talked on the pod last time, like, yeah, there's the street level drug dealer doing the hand to hands, but then at some point there's a bank laundering that money into a real estate deal or into a something. And yet when the banks got, I think they got a slap on the wrist, and it was like, you have to promise to stop laundering drug money, and that casino or that that real estate deal. Like there's this whole thing is it's all, I don't know. I look back on like it must be kind of like the good guys and bad guys. Is it there's just so much gray in so many places, and just
thing.
Trying to figure out, okay, well, where do we draw the line here too? Like I'm a pacifist, but then I see military technology being manufactured in Canada. There's all these different contradictions that we hold as a country and we hold as people, and
I think it's just not so black and white, and that's what people are looking for, is like just a definitive, I can do this, I can't do this. That's good, that's bad. This is evil, that's good. But it's like human beings are gray. We have certain things we believe, certain we don't. And then when we look at things, I'm only as good as anything I've been informed by. I hold my bias, I have my experiences. So I'm only as good as that. And it's just, what can we do to bring people together? And I think, again, that goes back to like the identity and the culture. And it's like, if you're here, you identify as this first. This is some discussions, like, to borrow from the Americans, they call themselves like African Americans, but it's like the Americans in the title, right? I'm Italian American, I'm whatever it might be. Whereas Canadian, you don't really hear that. And even nowadays, I hear a lot of people just kind of refer to themselves as wherever they're from. It's not even Canadian.
I don't know. These are getting into big, big existential questions.
It plays on the times right now here, even in Edmonton, is all I was saying.
But I think it comes back to a question of trust. It comes back to a question of like, we need to trust that smoke detector is going to go off when smoke happens. We need to trust that when we call the police to come and bust the drug dealer, that they're not in cahoots with the drug dealer. Like we saw, the scandal that broke in Toronto there. We need to trust that when we put our money in the bank, it'll be there when we come to take it out again. And there's a declining, and we need to trust our politicians that they're not corrupted by, insert nation state here. So, but this across the board, we're seeing a decline in trust in all of these institutions, be it the church, be it whatever. We've seen all of this wild misinformation about not just the pandemic, vaccines, everything else, but just across the board. All of this, like, in some ways, there's so many breakdowns in society, and so where is it coming from? And I believe this is the foreign interference question. Like, who is polluting our social media? Who is buying all these ads? Like, we saw the Russian bot farms, we saw all of this, and I think that is the point that we really need to. It's not one politician getting corrupted. It's the whole water being poisoned of our community that turns everyone against each other and all this other stuff, and keeps us distracted and fighting each other rather than looking at all of the other big problems in the world now going on.
Just as we're coming to the end of the time, we're going to end it on a good note. So I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that is coming up, that you might have going on. So are you filling those potholes? What are you doing?
Oh, you know it. We're filling. Oh my God. So we are filling so many potholes. We're filling record numbers of potholes, but the freeze thaw won't stop. We're in the 7th winter this morning. So we saw this, the average road, if you go to an American city, lasts about 50 years. The road in Edmonton, about 25 to 30, because the freeze thaw. We have the most inhospitable climate to roads here, but we're working on that. We're getting that filled in. We're going into the budget. I mean, it's rough tides across the world right now with the price of oil skyrocketing and everything else. But we're working on building an affordable city. We're building a lot more homes. Rents were down 2.2% last year, so we're building a lot more housing choices for people. That's going awesome. The train to West Edmonton Mall will finally be open in 2 years, which will be great.
Is that on time? I honestly haven't kept up with it. Is it the project on the right time?
It's on time. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So things. I just watched a video update about them yesterday, what they're doing. So even the good thing is, like, those intersections and everything will be open soon. Like, still, anywhere else in the world, I can't think of somewhere else I'd rather be than Edmonton. Like, we're still more affordable than Calgary, than Toronto, than Vancouver. It's still a great place to live, raise a family, everything else.
I was going to ask, we're doing better than Calgary, right? As long as we're doing better than them, especially their council.
I don't have that. They had a huge turnover in their council. I think they had 9 new councillors last election. So I only have relationships with a few of them. I'm still making those connections. Only met their mayor a couple of times. So
yeah, no, they you know what? I actually like their new mayor. He seems pretty level-headed, and at least the stuff I've seen. I haven't seen anything too crazy over there yet.
This is maybe a teaser to a future episode, but one of my beefs in Edmonton is we have 13 municipalities here, because I know some of your listeners are not in the area. So we have 13 municipalities. Edmonton is the big dog. Edmonton's about 1.2 million people. Mm-hmm. And when you add up the population of the 13, we get to about 1.6 million people. And one of my policing beefs is that almost all of the more complex calls, the heavy calls, all of that are Edmonton. And they're brought into for example, the unhoused folks are brought into Edmonton. There's a lot of other concerns about Edmonton. So Edmonton is really carrying a policing burden for the whole area, and I would argue even up northern Alberta. So we're carrying a policing burden for 2.5, 3 million people, but it's being funded by the taxpayers of 1.1 million. So you in Edmonton are paying higher property taxes for policing that really services this whole area. So I think it's time we have a conversation about an Edmonton regional police force. The province has said they want to move away from the RCMP. They want to look at a provincial police force. So before we even get there, before that conversation, I think we need to have a conversation about what does it mean to work together in the region? What does it mean what if we can work together where we're splitting the bill across everybody, working together and removing operational barriers for more efficiency?
When you look at, and we still have a couple minutes here, and I think this would be a good conversation to kind of end it on even. When we look at the greater area, so if we talk like St. Albert, Spruce Grove, and how many police do they actually have on any given day to police their area? I can tell you just from talking to people on the ground, they're usually below what they're supposed to be. So are they getting the proper level of service? I don't know, but it'd be a very interesting discussion to see, like, if we expanded regionally, how many police are we going to put out there? Now, do their bills go up and ours go down, or do ours stay the same and theirs go up? What would that actually look like?
And that's what we need to look at. And ultimately it comes back to that question of safety, and we all want to be safe. But I will tell you, during the massive snowpocalypse we had in December, if you were in Sherwood Park, the cops there were going around pulling license plate and calling people saying, "Hey, Nathan, can you move your vehicle?" So I talked to a city staff here who said they got a call from the cops saying, "Please move your vehicle. We're coming to snow plow your street."
Oh, really?
no way in hell would our members have time in Edmonton to do that.
Yeah.
If I was like, "Hey, chief, can you pull your members off the beat to come and move some parked cars?"
Yeah. Yeah.
He would tell me to pound sand. Like it's there's no way we would do that. So part of me is like, well, thank goodness things are so safe out there that your resources can be deployed telling people to move their cars because it's a snow day.
Wow.
So I'm sure that's an anomaly, but it just, it's more of we're just all so bitter at the snow removal. Like it's just been a horrible winter in Edmonton. So we're all sour and waiting for sunshine.
Yeah. You know what? But I think that when you talk like the regional stuff, I got a feeling that's going to happen. And I don't have I'm not privy to any kind of conversations at those levels. Those are like,
well, I've raised it with the chief. I've raised
Yeah.
it with the commission. Like everybody's kind of looking at this. I mean, everybody kind of knows this. It's a tricky conversation. It's a money conversation. But at the end of the day, it's like St. Albert and Edmonton are you're crossing the street. Sherwood Park and Edmonton, you're crossing the street. And so how do we make these are not hamlets far away now. We are twins. We are conjoined twins,
Yeah.
and we need to work together.
Well, when I was with RCMP before, and I worked in Okotoks, and it's a little bit it's a couple kilometers south of Calgary, but there's a lot of farm space in between. But all it was really, it was a bedroom community, right? There's just homes out there for the most part. So people would go there to go to sleep, and then they'd drive into Calgary, and all this stuff would happen in Calgary. So yeah, they don't have an entertainment zone that brings in all kinds of people from all over the province, and then you get different issues with that, right? Just as an example. So, yeah, we are paying for a lot more people to come in. They use the roads. There's all that stuff that you have to deal with. But then on the policing side, it generates more issues, right? When you bring in thousands of people from all these different areas. But they don't have that, so they don't deal with any of it. So it's are they kind of getting by paying the minimal amount for law enforcement, as example? But there's also roads and wear and tear and whatever else it might be.
And then everyone, if you have a alcohol problem, a substance problem, you're brought into Edmonton. If you have a violence issue, you're brought into Edmonton. If you have and it's just on and on. And it goes to my other beef about how there's 11 prisons in the area. There's, if you're in prison, even in Bowden in Alberta, you're brought up to Edmonton and dropped here. It's just Edmonton cannot continue. The 1.1 million and 1.2 million of us cannot continue paying the property taxes to service the whole criminal justice system of Alberta, and we need a new deal for Edmonton, and that's I'll do another ride along with somebody else, and then I'll come back for episode 3 in 2 years.
Awesome. Hey, we'll get you on before then, but I really do appreciate your time on here. So I want to say thanks for continuing to do the work that you're doing, and Councillor Elliott and everyone else. It's appreciated.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Nathan.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.